What is the most intelligent thing your pet had ever done? Story one, we used to have a cockatoo, as well as some cats and dogs. We were teaching the dog some tricks, and the cockatoo was just doing his thing every day, the same routine, get some treats, call the dog, sit, stay, lay down, roll over, get a treat, etc. One night we were watching TV, and hear the cockatoo call the dog by name, sit, stay, lay down, roll over, good boy. We heard something hit the floor, and then he called out the next dog's name, walked into the kitchen to find the cockatoo in the spot we always stand, giving orders to the dogs who were obeying, and then pulling treats out of the cup and dropping them on the floor. This went on for some time. Dogs now liked the cockatoo and would let him ride on their backs. Cockatoo would call them, tell them to lay down, would climb on, and ride around like a king. The dogs knew what's up, would walk to the kitchen and stand by the counter. Cockatoo would hop up and drop him a treat, say good boy, and hop back on. Funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Story two, I had the best dog ever. One night, I was fast asleep, and he was gently biting my hand, just enough to wake me up. Once I woke up, he started tugging on it, as if to say, follow me. It was so weird, so I follow him, and he leads me to the side door of my house, sits facing the door, and barks ever so silently. I then realize someone is outside picking the lock. I called 911. It was a drunk guy, no idea what his intentions were once he got in, but my dog for some reason managed to get him arrested. He probably would have been scared away had my dog just barked, but for some reason the old boy wanted to alert me quietly. Story three, one of my cats back when I was a kid, Thomas, got a urinary tract infection somehow. We would have never known because he's both an indoor and outdoor cat, and usually went outside to relieve himself. One day, he jumped up into the bathroom sink, pushed the plunger down to stop the water leaving the basin, and pissed in it. Afterward, he stood over it, crying until someone came and saw the urine in the bowl. He found a way to directly tell us, yo, something's wrong with me. He could also open doors on his own. Story four, my dogs, Arrow and Bo, ran off into the woods one day. When I wasn't paying attention, Arrow had a leash on. Bo came back alone hours later. I asked Bo, where's Arrow? Where's he? He led me through the woods to the edge of someone else's property and started screwing around. So I figured, too much to expect from him. I went back home. Another hour or so passed. I was getting pretty worried. I tried asking Bo again. He led me through the woods, same path he took before. This time I followed him onto the stranger's land, went over a hilltop, and there was Arrow, his leash wrapped around a young pine tree, and he was sitting in the sun, panting. Arrow could have literally died from heat stroke stuck out in the sun. Both understood what I asked. I didn't believe him the first time. He led me back a second time and helped me find Arrow. Edit for picture tan black dog is Bo. Catahoula in front is Arrow, another one. Story five, my chickens held a funeral. In our flock of maybe 10 bantams, there was one elderly, respected hen, even the brash rooster, who would spend most of his time chasing other chickens away from his feed, meekly made space for Gray Girl when she slowly made her way over to the chicken feed. She was mother and grandmother to many of them, and you could tell how much they esteemed her. One morning, I opened the chicken coop as usual, but not a chook was to be seen. Normally, they'd be all running out to find a night's bounty of bugs, but not this morning. I walk inside the pen to see what's up. There's a circle of chickens. An actual circle, with Gray Girl's body right in the middle. All the chooks are making this weird wailing sound, which I had never heard before. I am in no doubt they were mourning the passing of their elder mother. What's more, the body was lying outside the shed where she would have been roosting. There's a good chance that she was actually pulled out of the claustrophobic, poo-filled shed and placed in the open space by the chickens, so they could pay their respects. After about half an hour, the chooks all wandered off, and I buried the body, and I never saw that behavior again. Edit, I still eat chicken. Story six, I snuck downstairs and watched my small dog delicately push the chairs and a couple cardboard boxes around into a specific orientation, then wildly parkour across the objects in order to get to my dinner sitting on the table. He also carefully moved the fork out of the way using his claws so that it wouldn't make any noise. I notified him of my presence right before he started eating, and he just froze and then looked really guilty. In addition, when I have a panic attack, my dog will sometimes bring me his favorite stuffed animal because I assume he thinks it will comfort me like it comforts him. Story seven, carries his bone to you and pushes it into your hand. Then he starts chewing the other end of it while you hold it. When you try to pull on the bone to maybe start a tug-of-war game with him, he stops chewing and give you a look like, what the heck, just hold it. You're the one with opposable thumbs. Story eight, early in the morning, I open our sliding glass door to let my dog out. She stands there staring at me as I tell her to go to the bathroom and motion outside. After a 10-second staring contest, I attempt to lead her outside by first going out myself. I then proceed to walk into the sliding screen door I failed to open and knock it off the rails. That was when I knew my dog was smarter than me. Story 9, we had a dog that liked to roam the neighborhood too much, so we installed one of those wireless fences that give a shock from a collar when you cross it. The law requires it to beep and give a warning before the shock to train the dog to stop, which is good, but she figured out that if she got near it, then it would start beeping. So she went where the beeping started and lay down, then just lay there until the beeping stopped, and she knew the battery was drained and too weak to shock her, so she would just walk across. Story 10, I used to have this 5 to 6 foot iguana and let it roam the house because it would chill in the bay window and catch sunlight all day. One day he climbed the back door and clawed his way out of the screen. I found him perched on top of our garage. He changed his skin to almost pure black and was flared up as big as he could try to gather all the sun he could. I guess he saw that garage every time he was basking in the sun and decided one day he wanted to be on top of it. Story 11, I live in the country. Someone dumped a dog on me. She's a tiny little long-legged thing. Anyway, my wife and I went through all the steps to make sure she wasn't just lost. Facebook, vets and animal shelters, etc. No one ever claimed her, so she lives here. 2 years now. About 6 weeks after she arrived, we bought a camper. A small walk-in trailer rig. We were loading up for the first trip, and the little dog was suddenly nowhere to be found. My wife found her hiding in a box of supplies in the camper. Somehow that dog knew we were leaving for a while and was trying not to get left behind. Story 12, I have pet rats. One of them broke a tooth, and the infection spread to her brain. The teeth go all the way up above the brain. I had her on antibiotics, but she was a bit tilted to one side. When they were out on a table, I noticed her falling over near the edge of the table and was afraid that she would fall. However, before I have time to react and move, another of my rats walk up to her, takes a firm but careful grip around the base of her tail, and pulls her away from the edge of the table. Now, I know one should be careful in placing human thoughts in animal heads, but usually a rat biting another rat's tail is a surefire way to start a fight, and I can't see any other reason to do it except that she saw ahead, noticed the potential problem, figure out what to do to solve it, and implemented that solution. Shall always be remembered, my little hero rat. That's not the only time I've seen rats do things that makes me go WTF, how did they figure that out? But it's the most impressive event. I have both rats and a dog, and the rats are as smart as the dog, possibly smarter. Story 13, when I was young, my family moved a long distance with 2 pets, a cat and a dog. My mom said that cats could try to run off to find home after a move, so we had a cat collar with a long leash to hold her while we were unloading the trailers. I heard my Australian Shepherd bark twice on the back porch. Abby never barked unless something was serious. I ran back there, and my cat had run around a chair many times and then jumped off the chair with not enough room on leash to be on ground and was hanging there choking. When I rounded the corner, Abby was trying to chew through the leash. Best dog ever. Both cat and dog lived long, happy lives. R.I.P. Abby and Rionette. Story 14, we've got 2 dogs. One of the dogs has frequent seizures. The medicine only helps so much. The other dog can sense them before they'll happen. Shall warn us like 10 to 30 seconds before we'll even notice. I know there are dogs trained to do this with humans, but the other dog isn't trained whatsoever. Story 15, I had left my dog home alone for about an hour. It was the middle of winter, and my family were very poor and didn't have oil or very good insulation in some parts of the house. So I got back and I found my dog with every single blanket in the house on my bed, and he was in the very center of all of them. Story 16, my dog Roger will start barking at the front door as if someone is there. My other dog Flash will immediately join him. There is no one at the front door. Roger just wanted to take Flash's spot on the bed and all the pets. Story 17, my friend's pet. I was sitting on the couch with a buddy while said friend was making some food, and while we were talking, her dog started to eat food from its bowl. When he got out of food, he tried to press the button that opens the lid of the device that releases more food to the bowl. It didn't make it. I started laughing and said, "What a stupid dog." The dog immediately stopped and stared at me. I stopped laughing. The dog kept staring, pissed. After solid 10 seconds, the dog walked away on the opposite direction. After a few steps, the dog stopped, turned his head, and stared at me for 5 more seconds. Then left. I got scared. Story 18, I witnessed this with my uncle's dog. My uncle was lying on the couch, and she was lying on his feet and legs. He let out a huge, which was aimed directly at her face. She lifted her head and glared at him, and he started laughing. She got up and walked away in disgust. A few minutes later, she came back, jumped up on his chest, stuck her butt in his face, and farted on him, and walked away. I laughed so hard I cried and gave her so many treats. Story 19, every morning when I wake up, I step outside for a smoke and let my dog out to handle his business in the yard. He's usually done by the time I am. One day, he was sniffing something really interesting, and he was not ready to come back in yet. I forced him inside, and he seemed pretty pissed about it. As soon as we walk through the door, he runs ahead of me around the corner and into my bedroom. As soon as I get to my room, he's waiting for me. We lock eyes. He lifts his leg, and pisses all over the side of my bed while maintaining eye contact. Story 20. We had pot-belly pigs when we were little because my brother and I were allergic to cats and dogs. Smart little my brother, and I would always yell, So one day my mom left for a couple days and the pigs got upset. One of them started squealing and then opening its mouth, so it sounded like Then the other one started doing it. So we had 2 pigs in the house screaming for mama. It was creepy as... Story 21. I have an African gray, so he probably doesn't count, but when he wants to be, could be a vindictive little. When I was first taking him home, he was originally my mom's. I was also driving my sister home. She had just had jaw surgery, so she was on meds that gave her motion sickness. So I get in his travel cage and wrap in a towel, then get my sister in, and both of them are being irritable little shits. So about 10 minutes into the drive, my sister reaches back and smacks the side of his travel cage to shut him up. About an hour later, sister gets sick. I pull over. She darts out of the car. Jojo starts laughing. His cage is still wrapped, so the first time I assume it's just his response to us stopping, because how could he know she's sick? She got sick 5 times that drive, and he laughed at her every time with my mother's laugh. He also used to have a habit of calling the dogs by name, mimicking the fire alarm to make them howl, howling with them to keep them going, then laughing at my mom when she came up the stairs to shut them up. Now he mostly just sings to me and asks for cheese. He's mellowed out a lot. Story 22. Flatmate arrived home with fast food. Went upstairs. Dog then barked at the door. Flatmate went downstairs to check the door. Dog ate the food. I heard the blood-curdling screams from my downstairs bedroom. One of many, many stories of my Jack Russell's ability to calculate, anticipate, and obtain the reward. Story 23. There are 2 dog parks near my home, and my dog preferred one over the other, but the preferred one is a bit further away. One day, I was walking her, and when she realized I was taking her to the closer one, she suddenly started to limp. I stopped to check her paws. Finding nothing wrong, I continued, and the limp miraculously disappeared once I started heading the way she wanted to go. Story 24. I used to have a cat that would jump up and grab the refrigerator door handle and hang from it. Then he would rock back and forth until the door finally swung open. He would then proceed to rummage through the food on the lower shelves and have himself some snacks. Story 25. She saved my life. I was sleeping and started going into a diabetic seizure. My so at the time was a very heavy sleeper, her dog. She jumped on the bed, whining and barking until my so woke up. Ambulance was called. Life was saved. Story 26. My cat yawned, so I stuck a finger in his mouth. He sort of stared at me curiously as he shut his mouth, but didn't bite down hard. A few minutes later, he's sitting on my chest, and I yawn. He proceeds to put his whole paw in my mouth. Story 27. You'd think my cockatoo would be intelligent, but so far he has 1 fallen from a branch all the way to the bottom of his big cage, 2 managed to get his head wedged in his cage, door 3 bit an electricity cable and caught on fire twice. He's our vet's favorite. Edit here is a short video of said cockatoo. Story 28. My cat knows when I'm on the verge of having full-blown panic attacks, and will jump on me to try and distract and or comfort me. She knows me too well. She's the same cat who's chewed through several laptop chargers and phone cables, so she's not that intelligent, I swear. Story 29. My dog is super sneaky. He's not allowed on the furniture and never ever tries to get up on the couch or bed unless we invite him. One day, I was taking a shower and had forgotten a body wash I had just purchased, so I left the shower running and ran out to my room to grab it really fast. I found him on the couch happily rolling around on his back. As soon as he realized I was there, he froze for a moment, jumped off the couch, and ran to his bed. That's when I realized the little waits for me to get in the shower to get on the furniture and knows to listen for me to turn the shower off, so he knows when to stop. Story 30. I raise chickens, and the chicks we have recently figured out they can do flying kicks at each other. Edit footage can be seen here. Story 31. I had a pair of goldfish that grew to be quite large. Their names were Nemo and Toad. When Nemo was dying, Toad did everything in his power to revive him, including swimming alongside him and under him to boost him up and giving up larger portions of the food. After the Nemo passed away, Toad got super depressed. He wouldn't eat at all and spent all day moving the little pebbles at the bottom of the fish tank from one side of the tank to the next. He died not long after. Story 32. Once my cat had fleas, and she was utterly miserable. She avoided the carpets, of course, because she knew they lived there and walked only on couch tops and hardwood floors. She is very attached to me and requires a lot of attention. During this time, I couldn't give her the adequate attention she requires. Since we were struggling to contain the infestation, she was sitting on a couch placed over a rug and staring at me with this exhausted expression. I looked at her and said, "If you were trying to avoid them, you'll have better luck over there," and pointed to a comfortable spot which was likely flea-free. She looked over to the spot I pointed toward, then back at me, then got up and moved accordingly. I find it strange how eerily well my cat understands me sometimes. I talk to her like a regular person. Story 33. We lived in an apartment complex that didn't allow pets. Unfortunately, the people who frequently drove into the complex and dumped unwanted cats' dogs weren't aware that residents weren't allowed to have pets. One evening, there was an orange tabby crying piteously in the yard behind our building, just 25 yards from one of the busiest roads in our city. The neighbor across the breezeway said that she saw him tossed out of a car that morning. I was worried that he would get creamed on the road and spent 2 hours sitting in the grass next to him with a bowl of ground hamburger to earn his trust. I had no idea what I was going to do with him after that. I just didn't want to see him starve or get run over. After a few weeks, we worked out a living arrangement. He stayed in the apartment during the day with food and water and a bed, and then went outside at night. We had to keep his presence hidden so that the apartment management wouldn't fine us or evict us. We couldn't keep cat food bowls outside or a litter box inside the staff collected garbage, so they'd know if I was dumping used cat litter. Due to his effervescent personality, we started calling him John C., the Aliens reference. We were working on a solution house him permanently, but it was going to be a few more months before we could either get him into a rescue or move to a new residence that allowed pets. One night, during a round of terrible thunderstorms and heavy rain, John C. was less than thrilled to head outside, and we weren't hot on the idea either. So he curled up in the corner of the couch, and we headed to bed. The following morning, I woke up and stumbled for the coffee maker. My husband asked me if the reason I was so tired was because I was up late cleaning up after the cat. I had no idea what he was talking about. He told me to look in the kitchen sink. There was a dish rag lying in the bottom of the sink, and when I moved it, there was cat in the drain. It took me a few seconds to figure out what I was looking at and what it meant. To my husband, it looked as if I cleaned up cat, and in disgust had just thrown it in the sink to deal with it in the morning. What had actually happened was that John C. needed to use the bathroom, and instead of using any of my many houseplants, the corner, or just about anywhere else, he had chosen the absolute best alternative to a litter box available to him, the empty kitchen sink. Had done his business and courteously covered it over with the dish towel I always kept draped over the neck of the faucet. He earned a forever home with us, and we moved to a house a few months after that. When I was going through a really bad spell with depression, my dog used to come in a bedroom and check I was okay. He would lay his head down on the bed, just standing watching me. He could also open every door in the house save for the front door. And one night, he was out a walk with my dad off the lead in the field when my dad lost sight of him. He somehow made his way to my grandparents' house. We think someone may have tried to steal him as he had managed to wriggle out of his collar. Story 34. I had a very smart and wonderful golden retriever, Emma. She would sometimes try trading one of her gross rawhide shoes for something we were holding if she wanted it. She once dropped her toy in my dad's lap, nudged it towards him, and started speaking not like a bark, more like dog complaining while nodding at the apple he held. She would also distract our book-smart, but not street-smart other golden if she wanted the toy the other dog had. She'd take a random toy, go up to one of us and make a big deal, jumping and barking and playing with us with the toy. Then when Book-Smart Dog dropped her toy and ran to see what all the fuss was about, Emma would immediately leave us and grab Book-Smart's toy and run off with it. One time she found a hurt dove and brought it to us in her mouth, holding it so gently. I miss her so much. Her favorite food was buttered bagels, and every Sunday when we got fresh bagels, she'd stand in the kitchen next to them and complain at us until we gave her some, with butter. Story 35. My dog figured out how to open the refrigerator. I guess she sticks her stupid head in the handle to get it started, then paws it open. She then proceeded to open the meat drawer with her teeth. The evidence was all there, and remove all of the contents and eat it. She then puked a bunch of it up and had wicked diarrhea. Nothing quite like coming home from a hard day of work and walking in on a war zone like I witnessed. Plus, I was looking forward to eating that bacon. Story 36. We had a dog called Suki, probably the smartest dog we've ever had. I had a kitten at the time, Sam, who was trying to climb into a box. She managed to get her paws onto the edge and lost her footing, hanging from her front paws. Suki watches Sam a while with interest. Realizing Sam was stuck, Suki casually walks over, puts her muzzle under Sam, and flicks her head, flipping Sam to safety on top of the box. Rescue completed, she saunters away like she hadn't done anything extraordinary. Story 37. Not my current dog, but the family dog we got when I was a teenager. I came home and went to my room, and she's just barking for no reason. Not furiously, but an unfamiliar cadence and enough to be annoying. I finally come out of my room to see what she wants. I look out the window and see my car trunk lid hadn't latched all the way and was wide open. Not that I had much of value in there, but as a broke college student in a neighborhood where anything not nailed down gets stolen, I thought it was pretty awesome of her. She got extra treats and pets that day. R.I.P. Cleo. Story 38. I was laying in bed while my dog was laying in his bed next to mine. I farted really loud, and my dog immediately grabbed his bed with his mouth and dragged it out of the room, then laid back on it to sleep. Story 39. I had a cat, a good friend a long, long time ago whom I still miss. He was a big tabby with awesome tan orange stripes. I would climb up to the roof sometimes to avoid my housemates and relax and stare at the moon. One night I climbed up there, and he was up there. He saw me and seemed to get very happily excited to see me. He ran to one edge of the roof, looked down, then looked at me. Then he ran to another edge, looked down, looked at me. He did that at every edge. I figured out what he was doing at the last one. I said, "Okay, thank you for showing me. Don't worry, I won't go too far and fall off." He looked very satisfied, walked to me, and laid on my chest, and we watched the moon together. Edit wow, thanks for all the nice votes. He was a good, strong tabby. Sadly, he was not strong enough to resist the siren song of the cat lady down the street, who fattened him and 30 other cats as her babies. She called them when I would go get him from her place. When she moved, I never saw him again. Story 40. My little white dog stumbled and fell jumping off the couch. Having noticed that my wife and I saw the whole thing, she nonchalantly barrel rolled and started rubbing her back on the floor, as if nothing had happened, stopped, and then stared back at us to confirm that she meant to do that. I have by far the weirdest dog ever. Story 41. I had outdoor cats when I was growing up. My personal favorite knew that if she jumped on the screen door, it would make a loud bang, and if anyone was around, we would let her in. She would do the same for the screen on my bedroom window that was ground level. I miss Scout. Story 42. I had a really large cat named Willie. For some reason, he was just a huge muscular cat. I think my parents told me he was some rare sort of breed. When I was 9 or 10, my neighbors had this really scary black Labrador that they always had chained up in the backyard. One day, I was riding my bike back home from my friend's house when that lab was in the front yard and chased me down. I tried to get away, but that dog tore up my leg and ankle really bad. Still have scars 14 years later. I remember getting home and sitting on the steps with my parents trying to bandage me up and stop bleeding. Willie came over and looked at my leg, then looked up and had this look like nobody hurts my humans. 30-pound Willie bolted out the door straight to the neighbor's house like an enraged cat avenger. He flew straight at that huge black Labrador and clawed up his sorry dog, but after that the dog never barked at me, never even got worked up when I rode by, because that dog knew Willie was king. Every night till he passed, Willie would sleep on my bed, and I slept soundly knowing nothing could hurt me as long as Willie was there. Think of that cat every day, and what an amazing personality he had. I miss him so much. Story 43. My Shetland sheepdog seems to be supernaturally cognizant of your feelings and your level of attentiveness, aside from trying to calm down highly emotional situations with worried barks or smothering you with affection, for example. This food fiend always knows how to fake you out and steal a meal. We know her game, but she knows how to capitalize on brief seconds when we're off guard. 2 examples. 1. Without fail, when company comes over and there are appetizers laid out on the table, she will excitedly run to the door barking to greet them as always. But as soon as she sees we're focused on the guests in the hall, she'll run back over to the food while throwing the sound of her bark toward us down the hall to give the impression that she is still around. Once at the doorway, she bolts to the table and steals what she can before we realize it. 2. One time when I was hanging out eating in front of the TV, my wife came home and started talking to me from the doorway. As I'm focused on her and the conversation, this sly creature sneaks in between my legs without being felt and stealthily snags the last bite of my sandwich from the coffee table, slithering out of sight to enjoy it without even brushing up against me. And it was a tight space. I didn't realize it until I found myself grabbing an empty plate. You'd think my wife would have said something as she was in plain view of this, but the act was executed so smoothly that it barely registered in her brain. Edit space formatting. Story 44. I had a cat who would open the garage door and let himself out. He would jump up and hit the button on the wall. He could open pretty much all the doors in the house unless we locked them. I love that cheeky. Story 45. I watched a chicken teach another chicken how to get out of the coop. My parents have chickens, and my dad built their coop himself for the first 6 months, or so they found new ways to escape in the yard until my dad sealed up all the escape routes. Tipsy, the boss chicken, was hanging out in the corner of the coop, and once she saw that 2 of the 3 other chickens were in the house, she rustled her feathers to get the 3rd chicken, Digsy, to look at her. Then she hopped up onto a branch and wiggled through S gap in the wire. Then she got back into the coop and looked at Digsy with that little side I think chickens do until Digsy tried herself. Then followed her out into the yard. I let them have that one. And until Dad patched the hole a week later, I only saw Tipsy and Digsy out in the yard. Not the other 2. Story 46. I taught my cat to shake hands, high five, roll over, and jump through a hoop. I don't live at home anymore, but he always remembers his routine. Even if it's been months, he sometimes just comes up to me and starts freestyling. Not a great video, but this is what I filmed a few years ago when I first taught him. Story 47 at the lake with my half-blue heeler, half-black lab. When I was a kid, we had water in a small plastic butter tub for her. To keep it from blowing away, she put rocks in it. We were all amazed at the problem-solving skills. Story 48 found a pit shepherd mix that had obviously been horribly abused. No way was he going back to whoever owned him, lived up on a mountain, and had asthma and a horrible boyfriend, fighting with said boyfriend one day, and was sobbing, deeply sobbing. You know how us women do when we feel utterly helpless? Felt my dog's chin on my knee and reached down to pet him. Lo and behold, he dropped my asthma inhaler into my hand. He heard me sobbing and thought I needed it. Good boy. He also jumped off a cliff into the river after me, grabbed my arm in his mouth, and tried to drag me to shore, was convinced I needed rescuing. Story 49, my cat is not a smart animal, but he did eventually learn that if he's cold, going under the covers and snuggling my belly makes him warmer. He'll take what I can get with this one. Story 50, I hadn't yet fed my cats, and they were mewing and getting frustrated that I was ignoring them. So they went and knocked over a tree fern thing I have in my house. It was so obviously a ewe that I couldn't help but laugh. Story 51, I have a golden retriever. When he was a puppy, he was very sneaky. He also has an obsession with taking my shoes, and he still does BTW, so any chance he got to take my shoes, he would. When he was smaller, he would chew them, so I never wanted him taking my shoes. But one day, I was making a sandwich before work. I had just enough time to make it and then eat it before I had to leave. He sat and watched me make that sandwich quietly without a fuss. And for a 6-month-old golden retriever puppy, I could only be suspicious. He watched as I toasted the bread, laid down the ham and the cheese, top it with pickles and lettuce and tomato. It was going to be a great sandwich. I even put some chips on the side of the plate. I sat down at the table and took a bite, and then I realized my dog disappeared. I quickly thought, he's in my room upstairs, and he's probably destroying my shoe. So I quickly ran to the stairs, and there he was right at the top with my shoe in his mouth. I told him to drop it, and he began to trot out of sight. So I chased him up the stairs and into my mother's room, where he dropped it almost immediately. He then ran away and down the stair. So I put my shoe away, and then I realized I left my sandwich unattended. I raced down the stairs, and there he was, standing in the hallway, the kitchen hunched over, devouring my sandwich. He ate the entire thing in like 3 bites. It was gone before I could even do anything about it. I picked up what remained, 1 piece of lettuce, and as I did, he licked me in the face. All I could smell was ham, and I felt like at that point he was taunting me. I didn't have any more ham to make another sandwich, or the time to make anything else, because I had to be in work. That's probably one of the smartest things I've ever seen him do. God, you, Otis. Story 52, I store the cat food in a container similar to this one. My cats think that any time I'm in the kitchen, they should be fed, regardless of how long it has been since they last ate. One of the cats has figured out how to unlatch the lid and how to open it. There's been many mornings I have woken up to him curled up in the container, or worse, gotten up to a spilled container. Story 53, I once tried to put my roommate's dog in his kennel. Sweet doggy obeyed me and went inside without a fuss. Then looked at me like, okay, now what? I closed the door, put the latch down, and told him to stay in there like a good boy. He gave me this look that said, are you serious with this? Without missing a beat, he calmly lifted the latch with his nose and walked out of the kennel.